my battery died right at the end of the right during that story. So uh it's today is Monday the 20th. I'm gonna record this before I go to bed, finish that story up. Anyway, so I'm on the airplane and we've got the pamphlets, right? I barely had to even put it up anywhere because he was so close in my face. And so I had the pamphlet, he had his pamphlets, and I pushed just very gently, just enough to kind of get him up. And as I'm doing this, there's also there's talking above on the plane that we're going to land. And so they're talking about we need to get in our spots. And then also the guy that was in the restroom, he comes up and he's standing there and like he wants to get in his spot because the pilot's on the thing saying we need to get into our seats and sit. And so as I'm kind of doing this and pushing, the guy next that's to get in his seat, he pushes the guy too and pushes and gets in his seat next to me. And the guy with the pamphlets got really pissed and he was about to like come at that guy too. And like at that moment, the other flight attendants grabbed him and just pulled him away. And they pulled him all the way to the front. And then I didn't see anything after that. He was gone. And it was like, okay. And like we were talking, I was like, did you see that? Did you see that? And we were like, what? So anywho, we're landing. So it's like, what are you going to do? And so we land, and our next flight, we have to go all the way across the airport. And so we get off and we go as quick as we can and we get to the next one. And then we get there and we still have a few minutes before they're going to have people get on the plane. And so we're sitting there, and as we're sitting there, here comes that guy and the whole other crew walking by us to get on this next plane to board it to go on the next plane with us. And we're like going, oh no, like that guy was scary. And so we're like, what do we do? What do we do? So we went up and tried to talk to the person, not the like ticket taker person, but there's like a booth up there where someone's just standing. So we went up and tried to talk to them. And they're like, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. You have to go online and make a complaint. We were like, but it happened right now. The guy's right there. They're like, sorry, you got to go online and make a complaint. So we're like, okay. So we went and sat down and made this complaint and did that. And then we got called. And as we were got called to get, our tickets to go get on the airplane. And as we're going and getting on, we're one of the last ones to go because we're finishing up our thing to send off for the complaint. And so as we're going through, the only person standing there taking the tickets is the nice guy that came and pulled the guy off that first time, the nicer flight attendant. And so I said to him, I'm like, hey, could you keep that guy away from us? I said, that scared me. Like, I said, could you just make sure he doesn't come around us? Because that was so scary. And he was just like he didn't even say anything. He just like, So it was like, okay. Anywho, so we went. And as we were going, we got in there and there was a little old lady sitting right on the end. And then their next two spots were ours. And we put our stuff up in the thing. And then I sat by the window this time and my ex sat in the middle. So it was little old lady on the end, ex in the middle, and then me by the window. And I had just sat down and he was still standing up, and then the little old lady was standing. And we were sitting there, and all of a sudden out of nowhere we hear, hey, I hear you're saying shit about me. And I turned my head and looked over there, and it was that flight attendant. And I was like, well, no, I just told him you scared me because you scared me. And he goes, how dare you? And starts coming at me. He freaking puts his knees into the old lady and comes at me. And my ex is still like in mid-sit, like he's about to sit, but he was still standing. So he like kind of goes like this to push the guy, but it makes him sit because he was like in mid-sit as the guy was coming at him. And so the guy like gets over my ex and is coming at me. And I'm just like going, oh my gosh. And I'm like getting in like this position and he's screaming at me. And he's like, how dare you say things about me? And everybody's just sitting, like everything stopped and got silent. And everybody's just like silent. And they come and they finally pull him off. And I don't know how long it lasted, because like I was just in panic mode. I was like in a little fetal position in the chair. And so they pulled him off. My ex isn't even moved. Like, he's just sitting there freaked out too. And then this little old lady is just sitting there too. Like, nobody, like, it was the craziest thing. So anyway, they pulled him off and I'm sitting there freaking out. And we're like, what do we do? Do we get off? Do we, like, I should have got off, but it was just, I didn't know what to do. And my ex didn't want to get off. Like, I wanted to, but he was just like, no, it's going to be too hard to get another flight. Let's just get home, blah, blah, blah. And so I saw him pull him off, and I figured, well, at least they've pulled him off. And he's not on the plane anymore. Well, it turned out that they put him up in first class and just told him he gets to stay on, but he has to stay in first class. And so they came and tried to talk to me. They're like, are you okay? Like, they're like, is everything, what's going on? And I said, honestly, I feel like I was just raped. And I'm sorry to use that term, but I have been raped before. And I know, and that is the feel. I PTSD'd, and it felt like I didn't have an option. Like, I was stuck in this little spot, nowhere to go. And if they hadn't pulled him off, he would have killed me. And I said this, and that guy goes, oh, well, we put him in first class. And I said, well, I'd like to get the police. And he's like, oh, we'll see what we can do. He left for a minute, came back, and he's like, they've got it set up so that where we're going to go and land and where I live, there'll be police at the terminal, at the end of the terminal. But that's, so they had that set up. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know. I was in shock. Like, I just sat there and shook pretty much the whole time. I was so scared, and it just makes me want to puke. And what was so scary is he'd peek through they had like a cloth thing that hung between first class and coach, and he'd peek through it and stuff. And it was so scary. And they came by at some point, and the guy brought me, the nicer guy, he came by and brought me some little snacks, because I think he felt really bad. It's just no one knew what to do. It was so, like, why would they not take him off and get police? Like, what? Anyway, we finally are going to be landing soon, and I think to myself, you know what? I need to write all this down. And so I asked for paper. They didn't have paper, so I asked for napkins. They're like, here, we can give you 2. I was like, really? So they gave me 2, because I told them, I'm like, I want to write this stuff down. I need something to write on. So they gave me 2 napkins. So I wrote as much as I could, everything I could think of, and so that when we would land, I would have it for the police. So anyway, we get off, and this was by the time we got there, it was the last flight, so it was that late one. We got there, all the lights were off, there was nobody there, and there was no police at the end of the terminal. And we get off, and we're getting down there, and I just start bawling, because it was like, there was no police. I didn't mean to. I was so scared and couldn't believe, like, where are they? We were just like, that guy could be after me, and no one cared. And so my friend that came to pick us up, who can actually have where I am on our property, she comes, and I'm just bawling. She's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? And she's hugging me, and my ex is standing there, like, trying to tell her, and I'm like, the guy tried to kill me. And she's like, oh my God. So they took me there was a girl that saw what was going on that worked there, like somebody like helping people move around and get around. And so she told us where the police station was in the airport. And so my friend took me down to where the police station was, and my ex was with her too. And we went into there, and they made me wait a little while. And finally I got up to where the guy was, where the sergeant guy was. And I talked to him through a window, and I could see him. And then there was a guy sitting in a chair next to him, on my right, so his left. And then to his right was another guy sitting in a chair, and then like 2 or 3 other people down the hall. Not hall, but like a room. It was like a long room, and you could see them all down there. And when I started talking, they all kind of came this way. So everybody could hear me. There was like a lot of people listening, not just the one guy. And I started telling exactly what happened, and I'm crying, but you could understand me. And I'm telling him, and I have the paper. I'm like, please help. And when I'm all done, he goes, you know what I hear? I hear that you pushed him, and that's where you messed up. And that's why we're not going to help you. And I was like, what? I was like, I didn't push him. He was in my face trying to get me. And so I gently pushed enough to the point where another guy coming over here did push him, and they had to pull him away. And the guy goes, I don't want to hear it. He's like, that's enough. I said, well, will you at least take this, what I wrote, and like photocopy and make a file? And they're like, no. Get out of here. They just made me leave. And I'm bawling. We're going, what are you talking about? So we go out and we're standing in the hallway and we're just like, well, what do we do? And so we decide to go, this was through Delta. We decide to go down to the Delta desk and try to talk to somebody for help. And we actually happened to get a very, very nice guy that we told him what happened. And he was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He found us the actual flight numbers, like got us all this information he wasn't supposed to and stuff, and like was trying really hard to help. And we ended up, later on, we tried to do a little bit of stuff, and they would say that, like the airplane would say that it was this state's fault, and that state would say it's that place's fault because the airplane was still on the ground. And they say because we had to, like, nobody cared. No one cared. It was like, sucks. That guy gets to just stay and do that to other people now. So yeah, that was super scary. So after that happened, we got back home. And I was shutting down. Like, I couldn't believe that all of that could happen. And all those people didn't care, didn't try to help. The police didn't try to help. Like, I don't know. I didn't feel safe anymore. And so I could not go anywhere. And it started to get the people I was still helping. I had one client left that I was taking care of when we got back, and I still kept taking care of them until like November or something. I can't remember. And I got really suicidal, and because what was the point? What was happening is every single thing I was trying to do, like when I would try to go, it would just cause PTSD flashbacks of when I was held captive, and there's sometimes I was raped, and the stuff with my grandpa, and the stuff with the guy at the house, and then now this airplane stuff and all this stuff in Disney. And that's just the stuff I've talked about so far. Like are also just so many random things. And I just couldn't do it. And all this time I'd been trying to get help. Like I'd been trying to go to therapy, and my ex would help me with like medicine. Like I wasn't just not trying to do stuff. Like it's just the care that they have. Like, and the jobs I was doing, since I was employed myself, I didn't have good insurance. And so they look at you like you're nothing, and they don't try to help you. And and it's like, here, I was doing a lot, but because it wasn't the real typical kind of jobs, no one like treats you good. And so one day I just couldn't get up anymore, and I didn't go to work, and I ended up laying in bed for 3 full months. And I never purposely like tried to kill myself, but I didn't care if I died. And I wished I would. Like, it's not that I wanted to die. Like, if things would be okay, and I don't know. I really needed help. And I laid in bed, and my ex helped keep me alive. He took care of the chickens. It was over the winter, and I literally just didn't get up. I would take sleeping pills whenever I just couldn't sleep, just so that I would stay asleep and didn't have to deal with anything. And I got to the point where I was nothing. And this is, like I said, I'd worked my whole life, and this is the first time I'd ever just given up. And then I ended up, I don't know, I was online one day and I found this game and I started playing this game. And that kind of got me feeling better and stuff. And I got really into it and ended up being one of the leaders and helping do the wars and all this stuff. And I got super into it and started getting better, and things were starting to get better. And so 3 months had passed, and then I finally started getting up. And my ex and me started kind of talking again. We had Christmas with my parents, and then I think we went with his parents and stuff too. And then right after that, I ended up getting pregnant. And because I had been so sick in bed, not treating my body right and stuff, I was really, really sick. And we went and they said it's not going to be okay, that either I end up just not being able to have it, or it was going to be horribly disabled. And we couldn't, everything wasn't okay. We couldn't have a baby. And I would have considered at least carrying it, but my body wasn't okay because I had messed it up so bad from being so depressed. And so we ended up having to have an abortion. And when I called to do it, the only available time they had was on Valentine's Day. Otherwise, we'd have to wait another 2 or 3 months after that. And it was already awful enough. So of course I'm going to take the soonest one. And it turned out that whatever the amount that you can have, I think it's 6 weeks is the earliest you can have one. And I was at 6 weeks and 2 days or something like that. So it was right at and it was awful. It was already awful. But when I made the appointment, the lady was just so mean. She made a quick appointment and then was done. That was it. And she didn't listen or anything. I tried to ask questions like payments and what do we do? What do we bring? Do I need to not eat first? Or what do I don't know. She just hung up. And so we had as much money saved as we could. We had I want to say $200 to $400 saved. And then when we got there that day to do it, we had to get there at 6 or 7 a.m. And we didn't have enough. It was $2,000. And I didn't know what I was going to do because the next appointments they had were 3 or 4 months out. And that's awful. And so she's like, just go sit down, honey. I'm going to figure this out for you. And we went, and because now we're not paying customers or whatever, we went and had to sit in a hallway on the floor because there was just so many people there and everything was so full and there was just no staff. So we sat on the floor, and about an hour and a half, she called me over and they found the funding. And so they were going to be able to do it, but I was just going to have to wait when they could just pop me in. And finally, they brought us in literally into a little broom closet that was about the size of my little hallway here. And they had a little chair and a little tiny little a little coffee table type thing in there. And then they brought another little chair in that he could sit on. And I was in extraordinary amount of pain because it wasn't doing well. And that's what happened, and I needed to be able to lay down, and I couldn't. I had to sit up in this chair. And she came in, and they just treated me pretty awful. The only nice person there was the lady that helped with the funding. And then I had to go into an actual exam room because they had to examine me to make sure I was far enough along or not too far or whatever, And when I got into they wouldn't let my ex come back with me. It had to, because no men were allowed back in there. And when they went to do it, I told the lady that I've been raped and stuff and I have PTSD and to be very gentle. And she goes, meh. She literally ripped my legs open and just up there. And she goes, yep, you're good to go. And then flipped my legs off and then walked out of the room. And that was it. And so I sat there and just started bawling. And finally she comes back in the room. She goes, you're still in here? Get your stuff together and get out. And so she goes out for a minute. I got my stuff together and went back to the broom closet. And so then the other lady came in and I tried to tell her and she goes, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, she's not very nice. I'm sorry. And I ended up doing the one where they give you the pills instead of where they actually do the surgery. And they give you the first pill there and then you go home and then you take the second one. And by the time we finally got home, it was like 6 p.m. or something. We were there for that long. And I took the second one and it was just awful. It hurt. You go into labor and you have it. And so I did that. I just sat on the toilet and he sat and held my hand. And it was really awful. And so I really gave up after that. And we talked and decided we needed to get divorced and sell the place. And I was fine with selling it because I just didn't want to live anymore. And it made me sad wanting to divorce and stuff, but we both just agreed we weren't good together. Like, we were making each other depressed and we didn't know how to help each other. So I could have figured a way to maybe keep the house or something, but I ended up, it was just crazy. I was thinking, it's screw it, I'm just going to die. And then something came over me that week or so, like, if I'm going to die, I'm going to go have some fun first. And so I went on my first road trip, and I'll make another video about that. But I went on my next road trip. I ended up, from that point, I sold that house and the chicken business I had, and my ex and I split what there was, and we each got 30 grand. I used 10 of it to buy the RV that I still have today. A friend that I met online during all this with the game and everything, he came with me for the first 3 months and did the maintenance for me. And he lived on the East Coast, I live on the West Coast, and so he flew here, and then we drove around a whole bunch for the first 3 months, and then I dropped him back off on the East Coast, and then I drove back all by myself and did a whole bunch more and actually road tripped and just kind of lived out of my RV places for 4 years. And then what kind of got me to want to do that is that game I was playing. I had made all these friends, and like none of us planned on meeting, so everybody was like their true authentic selves, and so it was the best people. And so I was like, if I'm gonna die, I want to go meet all these people first. So I went around, and during all of my time, and I met all these people. It was so much fun. So that's what's given me the idea to go do this again. I'm gonna do it in my car instead of in an RV, but I have a lot of experience doing that. And then I got odd jobs throughout it all. I'll talk about the road trip a lot more. That's stuff I'll get into more, but and then I ended up just doing a bunch of that. I ended up moving back up to Washington because my mom keeps having like heart attacks and heart stuff and just little things. So I've been here I just haven't wanted to leave her, but we've talked and she knows I'm going and stuff, and people are sad, but at the same time they all know I did this other thing in the RV and all this stuff. So when I did the RV, I took Rue. He came with me for the RV trip too, but I had my cat also. She got to come with me, but she's passed since then, so it's just Rue coming with me this time. But yep, that's what's got me to that, and I'll talk more about the road trip eventually. At the moment, I'm working at a restaurant inside of a store. And the people there are like the best people ever. Like, there's nothing wrong with them. It's just the amount of money that you make nowadays and the stuff you have to buy. And I actually have a lot of like mental illness stuff I've dealt with my whole life. And I have Tourette's syndrome. And so there's a lot of stuff I'm not quite capable that other people can do. I could do everything everybody can do, but with the Tourette's, it I need like 10 to 12 hours of sleep to get the same amount as other people for their 6 to 8 hours. And so trying to figure out scheduling for those for an actual real job instead of the types I was doing, how I was doing caregiving and stuff, is really, really difficult. And I'll definitely get into, I'll make a video where I'll talk about what Tourette's and the type of, I have like learning disability stuff that's, again, I'm not dumb, but like takes me a little longer reading and that kind of stuff. So that's the other thing too is before I got to this point, for the last year or so, I have been trying to get help and get on like disability and get some help from the government so I can get like a low income and find a place other than the RV. And it's been over about a year now, and I've had a therapist that he's a good person, but he's new and doesn't know what he's doing. And I keep trying to ask for help. And like, just there's nobody that can help. They send you to this person, they send you to that person, they send you to that person. And it's gotten to the point where like, I don't know what else to do. I'm working as hard as I can. I have wonderful managers that are working with me, thank God. And I still am in my RV. And like, there's like, no matter how much I keep working as hard as I can right now, there's never going to be a point with what I'm doing at this moment to make enough to get out of this. And so when I'm saying it comes down to the options, I either get another job and then just work just enough. And then finally, I think I'll be able to get maybe an apartment or maybe something. Or I'll go do some more road tripping. And God's already helped me get to this point. That's some more stuff I want to talk about too, is like, I want to talk about how I woke up and all the signs I see and all the cool angel stuff. And like, I'm so excited to go see what's out there and show you guys what's out there and share some more stories. And if anybody wants to know any more about that stuff, let me know. I'd love to talk about my last road trip. So if there's questions, ask me some questions so I know what to talk about and where to start. And then like, I'll keep updated on where I'm going to go, and I'll start posting stuff about some of the cool angel stuff. And I worked in the nursing home, so I have some really crazy ghost stories that like was like really cool stuff, and just all bunches of stuff. And anytime you guys message me, let me know what you want to hear about, or if you have any cool places you think I should go check out. I think I'm going to go do the Pacific Northwest coast first and find some cool stuff. And let me know. I'll come say hi. Me and Rue. See you later.